Imagine opening your bank account tomorrow morning and discovering that for years, possibly for decades, you have been receiving less Social Security money than you earned. Not because you made a mistake, not because you filed incorrectly, not because you missed a deadline, but because somewhere inside a government record, a number was entered wrong. A year of earnings was never recorded, or a calculation was made that nobody ever bothered to double check. Now ask yourself this question. If that happened, who would tell you? The uncomfortable answer is that in many cases, nobody would. The Social Security Administration processes millions of records and payments every month. When an error affects your benefits, there is no guarantee that a letter will arrive in your mailbox, a phone call will come to your home, or a representative will reach out to alert you. The system assumes the number is correct unless someone proves otherwise. That means thousands of retirees may be collecting checks that are smaller than what they actually earned, never realizing that money is being left behind month after month, year after year. If you were born before 1955, today's discussion could be one of the most important financial conversations you hear this year, because what you learn over the next few minutes may help you uncover money that legally belongs to you. Before we dive into the details, let me tell you about a retiree we'll call Robert. After spending more than 4 decades working in construction, Robert retired believing his Social Security check was exactly what it should be. Every month, the deposit arrived on schedule. Every month, he accepted it without question. Why wouldn't he? Most people assume that if a government agency calculates a benefit, the number must be accurate. Years later, while helping him organize financial documents, his son suggested creating an online Social Security account to review his earnings history. What they found stunned them. Several years of earnings were either missing entirely or reported at amounts far lower than what Robert had actually earned. Old tax documents confirmed the discrepancy. After submitting evidence and requesting a review, the record was corrected. His monthly benefit increased, and he received additional money that should have been part of his payments all along. The surprising part is not that an error occurred. The surprising part is that Robert never would have discovered it if a family member had not suggested checking. Stories like that happen more often than many retirees realize because Social Security benefits are built upon a foundation that stretches across an entire working lifetime. Every job you held, every paycheck you earned, every employer who reported wages under your Social Security number contributes to the calculation that eventually determines your retirement benefit. The formula itself is complicated, but the concept is straightforward. The Social Security Administration examines your highest 35 years of earnings, adjusts those earnings to account for inflation, averages them, and uses that information to determine your benefit amount. If the earnings record is accurate, the calculation can be accurate. If the earnings record contains mistakes, the calculation can be wrong from the very beginning. Think about how much trust is placed in records that may date back 40, 50, or even 60 years. Some retirees worked during periods when record keeping was largely paper-based. Employers changed ownership, businesses closed, documents were lost, computer systems evolved. Information was transferred from one format to another. Every transition created opportunities for mistakes. Most records are handled correctly, but it only takes one missing year or one incorrectly reported wage amount to affect the final benefit calculation. Because the benefit formula depends on your earnings history, errors that seem small on paper can translate into meaningful losses over time. Now let's talk about a group of Americans who face a unique situation. Individuals born between 1943 and 1954. If you fall into this category, your full retirement age is 66, not 65, not 67, exactly 66. That number matters more than many people realize because it affects how much of your earned benefit you receive. For years, many workers assumed that retirement naturally began at 65 because that age had long been associated with retirement programs. Yet Social Security rules changed, and millions of Americans either misunderstood the adjustment or never received a clear explanation of what it meant for their benefits. This misunderstanding led many retirees to claim benefits at age 62. To be clear, claiming at 62 is legal and sometimes necessary. Health concerns, layoffs, caregiving responsibilities, and financial hardships can make early claiming the right decision for some people. The problem is that many individuals never fully understood the long-term impact of that decision. When benefits are claimed before full retirement age, the reduction is generally permanent. The smaller monthly payment does not automatically increase to the full amount later. That reduced figure follows the retiree for life. Imagine two neighbors who earned nearly identical wages during their careers. One waits until full retirement age to claim benefits. The other files at 62 because they believe the difference is temporary. Years later, they discover that one household receives substantially more money every month than the other. Over 10, 15, or 20 years of retirement, the gap can become enormous. What began as a misunderstanding evolves into tens of thousands of dollars in lifetime income differences. A retired teacher once described this realization as one of the biggest financial surprises of her life. She believed that claiming early simply meant starting payments sooner. Nobody had clearly explained how the reduction would continue indefinitely. By the time she learned the details, years had passed. Her experience reflects something important. Many retirees make decisions based on incomplete information, rather than bad judgment. People cannot evaluate options they were never fully taught to understand. But even if you claim benefits at exactly the right age, another issue could still affect your payment amount. The number you receive every month depends on the earnings record used to calculate it. If that record contains mistakes, the timing of your claim becomes only part of the story. This is why reviewing your earnings history is so important. A person can follow every rule correctly and still receive less than they earned if inaccurate records are driving the calculation. One of the most overlooked financial tools available to retirees today is the online My Social Security account. Many people have heard of it but never created one. Others created an account years ago and rarely log in. Yet this account contains information that can reveal problems hidden for decades. When you access your earnings history, you can see year-by-year wage records reported under your Social Security number. This is where patterns begin to emerge. Perhaps a year shows zero earnings, even though you worked full-time. Perhaps an income figure appears dramatically lower than expected. Perhaps an entire period of employment seems incomplete. At first glance, some people dismiss these discrepancies as harmless clerical issues. They are not. Remember that every year included in your earnings, history contributes to the benefit formula. Missing earnings can reduce averages. Lower averages can reduce benefits. Reduced benefits can affect every monthly payment you receive for the rest of your retirement. What looks like a simple record-keeping error can quietly cost thousands of dollars over time. Another reason retirees should review their records involves delayed retirement credits. Many people born between 1943 and 1954 chose not to claim benefits at age 66. Instead, they delayed filing in exchange for larger future payments. Under Social Security rules, benefits generally increase for each year. Claiming is delayed beyond full retirement age, up to age 70. For someone who waited several years, the increase can be substantial. Yet those credits must be properly applied. Although errors involving delayed retirement credits are less common than earnings record issues, they do occur. When they do, retirees may receive smaller checks than expected, despite making the decision to wait. This is why understanding your benefit amount matters. You do not need to become a Social Security expert. You do not need to memorize regulations or calculate complex formulas. You simply need to know enough to recognize when something appears unusual. If your payment seems significantly different from estimates you previously received, that discrepancy deserves attention. If your earnings history contains unexplained gaps, those gaps deserve investigation. If your delayed retirement credits do not appear to be reflected in your benefit amount, questions should be asked. Many retirees hesitate to challenge government records because they assume the process will be difficult or pointless. They imagine endless paperwork, impossible requirements, and automatic rejection. While resolving an issue can take time, corrections do happen. The key is documentation. Old tax returns, W-2 forms, payroll records, and employment documents can provide evidence supporting a correction request. The stronger the documentation, the stronger the case. There is another reason this topic deserves attention right now. As retirement budgets become increasingly strained by rising costs, every dollar matters. Housing expenses have increased, insurance costs have climbed, food prices have changed dramatically over the past several years. For many retirees living on fixed incomes, even a modest increase in monthly benefits can make a meaningful difference. An extra $50, $100, or $200 each month may not sound life-changing to some people, but for retirees carefully managing every expense, that additional income can provide valuable breathing room. The reality is that most people spend more time reviewing a phone bill than they spend reviewing the earnings record that determines their retirement income. That imbalance creates opportunity for errors to remain hidden. The longer a mistake goes unnoticed, the longer its financial impact continues. Some retirees discover problems after only a few years. Others uncover discrepancies decades after retirement began. In nearly every case, the discovery starts the same way. Someone finally decides to look. The important lesson here is not that the Social Security system is intentionally trying to shortchange retirees. The lesson is that large systems make mistakes. Human beings enter data. Human beings process records. Human beings interpret rules. Whenever humans are involved, errors become possible. The question is not whether mistakes exist. The question is whether you are willing to verify that your own record is accurate. And that brings us to one of the most important actions any retiree can take. Set aside a few minutes, log into your Social Security account, and carefully review your earnings history from beginning to end. Do not skim it. Do not assume everything is correct. Examine each year, look for missing income, suspiciously low earnings, or unexplained gaps. The information you find there could have a direct impact on the amount of money you receive every month. For some retirees, that review confirms everything is accurate. For others, it opens the door to corrections that can permanently improve their financial situation. The most costly assumption a retiree can make is believing that someone else has already checked. Too often, nobody has. And that is precisely why so many people discover mistakes only after years of accepting numbers they never questioned. Let's continue with something that many retirees never hear until it is too late. Even when an error is identified, many people stop halfway through the process. They find a discrepancy, they make a phone call, they receive a generic response, and then they assume nothing more can be done. That is often where thousands of dollars remain trapped. Finding a mistake is only the first step. Following through is what actually produces results. The Social Security Administration cannot correct a problem it has not officially reviewed, and a review cannot happen unless the issue is properly documented and submitted. That is why persistence matters. Many retirees who eventually received higher benefits did not get them because they knew some secret rule. They received them because they refused to ignore information that did not make sense. If you discover a year in your earnings history that appears incorrect, begin gathering every piece of supporting documentation you can find. Old W-2 forms, tax returns, payroll statements, employment records, union records, and even bank documents can help establish what you actually earned. Many retirees are surprised by how much information they still have stored away in filing cabinets, boxes, closets, and desk drawers. Documents that seemed unimportant 20 years ago can suddenly become the key to proving an earnings discrepancy today. Even if you cannot locate every record, do not assume your case is hopeless. Partial documentation is often better than no documentation at all. One of the biggest misconceptions among retirees is that old errors can never be corrected. While it is true that older records may require more evidence and more effort, corrections are not automatically impossible simply because decades have passed. Every situation is different. What matters is whether you can demonstrate that the information being used to calculate your benefit is inaccurate. The sooner you begin the process, the better. Waiting another year rarely makes the situation easier. Now, there is another category of retirees who need to pay especially close attention. These are surviving spouses. For years, reports have surfaced involving widows and widowers whose benefits were calculated incorrectly because of administrative errors or complicated survivor benefit calculations. Many people assume survivor benefits are straightforward. Unfortunately, they can be among the most complex calculations within the Social Security system. When multiple benefits, filing dates, and eligibility rules interact, mistakes become more likely. A surviving spouse may be entitled to a higher payment than they are receiving and never realize it unless they specifically ask questions and review their records. Imagine losing a spouse after decades of marriage and then trusting that every benefit adjustment was handled correctly during an emotionally difficult time. Most people would do exactly that. Few individuals are eager to study government regulations while coping with grief. Yet history has shown that errors sometimes occur during these transitions. That does not mean every surviving spouse is being underpaid. It simply means the possibility exists. And when the possibility involves monthly income, verification becomes worthwhile. Another area that deserves attention involves workers who spent part of their careers in government positions that did not always pay into Social Security. Some retirees encounter unexpected reductions because of provisions they never understood while they were working. Others discover that benefits they expected to receive are different from what they anticipated. Whether the issue involves earnings records, delayed retirement credits, survivor benefits, or specialized provisions affecting government workers, the common thread remains the same. Understanding your record is the first line of defense. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you reviewed the actual foundation of your retirement income? Not your checking account, not your investment statement, The record that determines the amount deposited into your account every month. For many people, the answer is never. They spent decades working, paying into the system, and trusting that everything would be handled correctly. Trust is understandable. Blind trust is expensive. The retirees who protect themselves financially are usually not the smartest people in the room. They are simply the people willing to verify what others assume. There is also a psychological reason many people avoid looking. Deep down, they fear discovering something they cannot fix. They worry about frustration, paperwork, and bureaucracy. But consider the alternative. If a mistake exists, ignoring it does not make it disappear. The only difference is that the financial consequences continue month after month. Knowledge creates options. Ignorance preserves problems. Even if your review confirms everything is accurate, you gain peace of mind knowing your benefits are being calculated correctly. Think about what a modest increase in benefits could mean over time. An additional $75 per month becomes $900 per year. $100 per month becomes $1,200 per year. $200 per month becomes $2,400 per year. Stretch those figures across a decade or two of retirement, and the numbers become substantial. We are not talking about pocket change. We are talking about income that could help cover rising medical expenses, utility bills, insurance premiums, groceries, travel, or simply provide a greater sense of financial security. There is another lesson hidden inside all of this. Retirement planning does not end when retirement begins. Many people treat retirement as a finish line. In reality, it is the start of a new financial phase that requires periodic attention. Laws change, procedures change, benefit calculations are updated, cost of living adjustments are applied, records are reviewed. The retirees who remain engaged with their finances often identify opportunities and problems that others overlook. Staying informed is not about becoming obsessed with money. It is about protecting resources you spent an entire lifetime earning. Over the years, countless retirees have shared stories about discovering discrepancies almost by accident. A daughter helping her father organize paperwork. A grandson setting up an online account. A widow reviewing documents after moving to a smaller home. In many cases, the discovery happened because someone decided to ask a simple question. Does this number actually make sense? That question alone has led to benefit corrections, back payments, and increased monthly income for people who assumed everything was already correct. What makes this topic especially important for those born before 1955 is that your working years span a period when record-keeping systems changed dramatically. Paper records became digital. Employers merged, closed, and reorganized. Information was transferred between systems. Most transitions happened successfully, but every transition created opportunities for errors. The longer your work history, the more opportunities existed for something to be recorded incorrectly. That does not mean a mistake definitely exists in your record. It simply means verification is worth the effort. As you review your earnings history, pay attention to patterns. Look for years that stand out. If you worked steadily and suddenly one year shows no earnings at all, that deserves investigation. If a year reflects only a fraction of what you remember earning, ask questions. If your benefit amount seems significantly lower than expected based on your work history, do not dismiss the concern without examining the details. The goal is not to assume a problem exists. The goal is to make sure one does not. And perhaps the most important takeaway from today's discussion is this. Nobody cares more about your retirement income than you do. Government agencies process millions of cases. Financial institutions handle millions of accounts. Representatives assist thousands of people. Your retirement is one file among many. To you, however, it is everything. It is your monthly income, your financial security, your peace of mind. That is why taking ownership of the process matters so much. Before you finish your day, consider taking one simple action. Log into your Social Security account and review your earnings history carefully. Not next month, not next year, today. Look at every year. Compare what you see to what you remember. If something appears incorrect, start gathering documentation. If everything looks accurate, you will gain confidence knowing your benefits are built on a solid foundation. Either outcome is valuable. And if you know someone born before 1955, a spouse, sibling, friend, neighbor, or former coworker, share this information with them. One conversation could help someone discover a mistake that has quietly affected their retirement income for years. Sometimes the most valuable financial advice is not about investments or tax strategies. Sometimes it is simply reminding people to verify what they have already earned. The truth is that retirement should not be a period of uncertainty about money you worked a lifetime to receive. The benefits you earned belong to you. The record behind those benefits deserve your attention. and the few minutes required to review them may turn out to be some of the most valuable minutes you spend all year. Thank you for spending this time with me. Stay informed, stay proactive, and never assume that a number is correct simply because it appears on a government statement. The people who protect their financial future are often the ones willing to ask one extra question and take one extra look. This is exactly why this channel exists, to help retirees understand the rules, uncover overlooked opportunities, and protect the benefits they worked so hard to earn. The Retirement Desk,